2008同埋09兩年咧，英國就接收咗超過50萬，只有少部分來自東歐嘅移民，多數咧都係來自印巴、非洲啊、遠東啊咁。搞到今日咁，英國都算係報應咯，因為1968年保守黨議員鮑華 （Enoch Power） 喺伯明翰發表演講，警告如果英國俾有色移民了無限制入境，有一日必定咧係血流成河。鮑華點解咁講呢？因為佢個選區有一個白人老婦向佢求助，話成條街全部係黑人居民，得佢一個係白種，於是成日受到啲黑人無業青年嘅滋擾。鮑華講話當年全國轟動，佢警告黑人大量湧入15至20年之後，英國將會不宜居住。佢嘅聲音遭到所謂自由知識分子聲討掩沒，不過從此佢就名垂青史，因為所謂血流成河論 The Rivers of Blood Speech 喺英國家傳戶曉，好多人心裏邊明明係認同，但係唔想俾人標籤為種族主義，加把口就話鮑華係極右分子啦。鮑華1998年就死咗啦，但係呢位言論自由戰士同埋常識分子就總算盡咗佢身為議員嘅責任。鮑華係咪一個種族主義分子呢？呢件事就兩睇。喺英國社會裏邊，其實就冇真正嘅種族歧視，不過有階級歧視。譬如話英格蘭南部嗰啲貴族嘅白種英國人就睇唔起住喺利物浦啊嗰啲白人嘅足球迷嘅。咁不過咧，你身為黑人或者印巴裔，你喺個階級社會裏邊就俾人陷咗落去。當然上位唔係咁容易啊，但係咧。佢本國嘅法律咧就有一個叫做種族平等委員會，聲稱就話保障個個都平等啦。呢啲咧就叫做虛偽啦。虛偽過頭咧都變咗愚蠢嘅，就搞到自己要付出代價。香港市民咧今時今日睇到英國燒到紅紅聲，千祈唔好幸災樂禍，或者今日嘅英國係聽日嘅香港都唔定啊！
一片冷風，活着是感覺跳動，衝擊心臟，叫破舊冷漠世界撼動，拳頭如火是最終，不想給一切操縱，要破壞這囚禁的溫室，玻璃碎片都散落大道。
今次呢個英國嘅騷亂嘅導火線呢，最主要係一個黑人呢係被射殺，咁呢個係一個近因啦。但係遠因嚟講呢，由於即係英國嘅社會呢，階級啊，同埋種族嘅矛盾咧都非常之厲害。一方面咧，就英國咧強調咧佢嘅社會係多元化，包含唔少嘅種族。但係另一方面咧，其實咧英國始終係一個階級同埋非常之傳統保守嘅社會，有不少嘅人士咧對於移民啊係產生唔滿意嘅情緒，加上咧係貧富不均，特別咧係喺低下階層裏面咧，黑人嗰個比例咧係唔少。飛起身體，越過城市階梯，踢碎了界規，壯烈10萬樣虛偽。
There are pockets of our society that are not just broken, but frankly sick.
英國今次嘅騷亂咧係屬於比較鬆散一啲嘅，就冇呢政黨啊或者黑幫嘅動員，就係一小撮嘅人士，甚至一大撮嘅人士咧係利用一啲事件係參與。
一腿將謊言騙局也摧毀。但各受創沒半點關係。
英國政府咧喺嗰個縮減開支嘅大環境之下咧，佢哋對於嗰個年青人嘅政策咧，可能係忽略咗。有部分咧，可能係接近入大學嘅年青人咧，係對於最近咧大學嗰個學費嘅增加咧係非常之不滿啦。另一方面咧，有好多嘅年青人咧，亦都可能對於佢哋嗰個社會嘅梯階啊，將來嘅前途啦，亦都多多少少係唔滿意，趁住今次嘅騷亂咧，係發泄佢哋嘅不滿。
反覆講100遍道理，對我這熾熱腦袋亦完全沒作用。
今次英國嘅騷亂咧，喺歐洲人嚟講咧，係一個好大嘅警號，因為歐洲其他國家希臘啊，甚至係葡萄牙等等啦。如果嗰個政府嘅債務咧係更加咧嚴重的話咧，我哋亦都唔排除咧市民上街，甚至衝擊政府。
拳頭如火是最終，不想給一切操縱，要破壞禁忌，跳出漆黑天空。
土耳其紀錄片真實記錄棕熊生態。棕熊綽號森林之靈，鏡頭直擊棕熊偷食事件。本應同人類保持距離，點解越嚟越接近民居呢？
種晒粟米啊，但係全部俾啲熊食晒啊！
佢就咁樣捉住我，然後咧就用呢個姿勢拉我走啦。
每當有野生動物闖入人類居住嘅範圍，我哋通常會話佢哋係不速之客。到底係棕熊入侵咗人類嘅範圍啊，定係人類入侵咗森林呢？
窗外有藍天，聽晚7點，本港台。
跟住落嚟係贏得樂，玩得起。星期一起新陣勢 ，ATV 出力打造精彩娛樂熱話。香港有飯開，亞洲電視強勢打造嘅創新綜藝節目，集資訊、娛樂、時尚、民生於一體。何守信帶隊出發，關注城市熱話，緊貼普羅大眾，全新意念，王牌旗艦節目，周一至周五晚8點橫空出世。飯前飯後一樣精彩，周一至周三晚7點 ，EVA 會客室，城中名人輕談近況，周一至周五晚7點半，記錄出色人生，亞視邁向55週年經典回味。8點半，你是我的命運，韓式勵志入陣，聽過每日一歌，音樂話題自然多。星期一起，本港台世界新。國務院副總理李克強訪港，亞洲電視全程直擊訪港實況。星期三上午9點半，國家12.5規劃與兩地經貿金融合作發展論壇。星期四上午9點半，香港大學100週年校慶典禮。下午3點半，添馬南新政府總部落成典禮。本港台、亞洲台兩台同步直擊。
大事不妙啦！而家壯勇營嘅士兵已經包圍住我哋呢度啦，
冇咁易嘅。唔會就咁就告一段落嘅。
放咗民主席呢個有利出去。
Hay Road and Oilai Street after the accident at around 8:30 this morning. The 29-year-old woman was crossing the road when the bus hit her. She was unconscious and rushed to Eastern Hospital, where she was declared dead. The driver was arrested for dangerous driving causing death. The coach was transporting residents from a housing estate in Tai Tam to Central.
Turning overseas, some 1,200 people have been arrested in a week's worth of rioting and looting in the UK that's killed 5 people.
A former New York City police chief who's been credited with reducing gang violence there has been appointed to deal with the unrest. Arthur Killa reports.
It's been a week since riots broke out in the English capital, and police have been carrying out a massive series of raids to track down people they suspect were involved.
The Commission has been absolutely clear and unequivocal that we are going to throw every possible resource at bringing those to justice who committed these horrible offences on Monday.
There's been a huge number of police deployed this weekend, with 16,000 officers out on the streets compared to the usual 2,500. There are fears that weekend drinking could reignite the violence. Meanwhile, senior government officials are still out and about on publicity missions in areas affected by the riots. Prime Minister David Cameron was in Manchester to survey the damage and praise the work of emergency services.
Let me pay tribute on behalf of the whole country to the bravery that police officers have shown up and down this country. They are a thin blue line, they work on our behalf, they put themselves at risk, and we should thank them and praise them for what they've done.
But apparently Cameron believes they're incapable of dealing with gang violence. His government has recruited American William Bratton, former New York City Police Commissioner and chairman of US-based security firm Kroll, to help them out. Bratton has been widely credited with reducing gang violence in cities like Los Angeles and New York, which experienced a period of record crime reduction while he was police chief. He's been appointed as a consultant to advise Cameron.
Well, I think part of what the government is going to do is to take a look at what worked and what didn't work during the course of the last week. My assignment is to focus more on the issues of the American experience dealing with gangs and what we may be able to share with them that might help them to prevent similar activities in the future.
Hello. Opposition party leader Ed Miliband has also been visiting sites of the looting, including Brixton in South London, while Home Secretary Theresa May was in Enfield, where the country's independent music scene took a major hit because of the violence. Sony's warehouse, which contained the stock of more than 150 labels, was torched. Some 1.5 million CDs were destroyed, and it took 40 firefighters to put out the blaze.
Just watching the middle of the warehouse collapse and just thinking, oh no, that's it.
This has more of an impact on smaller labels like Stolen Recordings.
We don't really have the buffer, you know, where we're making the records, selling them, and then we've got a profit share with the artist, so it's very sort of close to the bone.
It's just the latest in a string of misfortunes that has had the label struggling to stay afloat. In 2008, their distribution company went bankrupt, and the local post office where it mailed records from was burned to the ground in the riot. Arthur Akila, ATV News.
Turning overseas, U.S. President Barack Obama has admitted that some factors hindering the country's growth is out of Washington's control.
Among them is Europe's debt crisis, as Italy's cabinet approves an austerity plan worth over $60 billion. Angry Italians crowded outside the seat of the government in Rome overnight as the cabinet scrambled to deliver a harsh dose of austerity to the country's fragile economy. Ministers approved a package by emergency decree to meet European Central Bank demands for Rome to shore up its strained public finances. It includes a painful mixture of tax hikes and public spending cuts worth over $28 billion next year and more than $36 billion in 2013. Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi said his government had no other choice. The package must be approved by Parliament within 60 days. The extent of the cut underlines how far the government has been pushed since markets turned on Italy last month, dragging it close to a Greek-style emergency that would overwhelm the Eurozone's bailout mechanism. Over in the US, President Barack Obama said that Europe's debt crisis and other international factors out of Washington's control have contributed to the country's financial problems.
Europe is dealing with all sorts of financial turmoil that is lapping up on our shores. Japan's tragic earthquake hurt economies around the globe, including ours, cut off some supply chains that were very important to us. And all of this has further challenged our economy.
The US is still reeling from the effects of an unprecedented credit rating downgrade by Standard & Poor's last weekend, which led to a rout in world markets. Obama blamed it on partisan politics.
It didn't happen because we don't have the capacity to pay our bills. It happened because Washington doesn't have the capacity to come together and get things done. It was a self-inflicted wound.
On Capitol Hill, a 12-member bipartisan deficit panel has been named to come up with a budget agreement by late November. If that fails, the country could face more spending cuts and yet another credit rating downgrade.
Still to come on ATV's main news, top Xinjiang official warns terrorist activities have entered new phase in the region.
And see how the elderly in Hong Kong are getting their exercise.
Tonight at 8 on World. Young explorers, they are everything he wants to be. This is where Paul Henry will find his dreams. At 8:30, World's wildest vacation videos. At 9, Discovering the World, on the road of revival. What will Poland discover that can surprise the world? At 10, Hunter Hunted. It has no fear. It can appear anytime and anywhere. Connect with the real world. Hot topics of our time. Key issues of the day. Different perspectives and comprehensive views. Newsline. The forum, the news, the discussion. Sunday night at 7.
Beautifully shaped. Unapologetically brutal. How much do you know about these primitive killers? Prehistoric Hunters, Wednesday night at 10.
Drug treatment and rehabilitation centers help those in need to kick their drug habit and start a new chapter in life.
我好珍惜呢個機會，喺呢度我得到關心同支持，揾到自己嘅價值同埋方向。
我好希望可以做一個有用嘅人，對社會有貢獻。喺呢度，我學識咗好多嘢，改變咗好多。
學識做人，有返自信心。全靠你哋嘅支持，我先可以重新做人。
企硬唔剔嘢。
Sparkle on the stage. A worldwide invitation to dance talents. Move now. Asian Million Star 4. Let's dance.
Go extreme. Go brave. This is your passport to adventure. Monday night at 8.
Welcome back. A month after massive ethnic riots broke out in Xinjiang, the region's party chief has warned that terrorist activities have now entered an active phase.
But Zhang Chunxian insisted that his government will be transparent in dealing with the violence. Jonathan Ng reports.
This was the scene in Xinjiang's regional capital Urumqi in July 2009, when more than 197 people died and over 1,700 injured as ethnic tensions between Uyghurs and Han Chinese boiled over and riots broke out. Just last month, 3 deadly attacks in the southern cities of Kashgar and Hotan claimed at least 32 more lives. At a meeting with members of the Hong Kong media, Xinjiang Communist Party Secretary Zhang Chunxian said these are tough times for the region. Xinjiang's violent terrorist activities have entered into an active phase. Don't think that with the central government supporting whoever governs in Xinjiang, violent terrorist activities will disappear. He warned the violence was backed by terrorist groups, including the East Turkestan Independence Movement, which is seeking independence for the region. Zhang said the past incidents showed all the signs of international terrorist activities, suicide bombings and car bombs. But he said the groups have evaluated the situation wrongly because they failed to gain the support of the local population. Even though 2 years have passed since the Urumqi riots, Zhang claimed that its effects are still being felt today, as it has created a sense of hatred, which isn't good for the region. But the party secretary said the fact that last month's violence did not escalate into rioting showed that the situation has changed. He said ethnic issues need to be dealt with through hard and soft measures. But the Xinjiang government came under fire during the riots 2 years ago, after footage showed security officers were heavy-handed with Hong Kong reporters. Zhang promised not to prevent the Hong Kong media from reporting in Xinjiang, instead saying he welcomed them. He said his government would be open and transparent if violence breaks out, but said the government has set procedures, which means it might not be able to release information immediately. Jonathan Ng, ATV News.
Now we'll look at other news from around the world, starting in Poland, where at least 1 person was killed when a train derailed.
More than 40 people were injured in the crash, which is still being investigated by authorities. Ben O'Rourke reports.
The intercity train from Warsaw to Katowice was carrying around 280 people in 4 carriages when it came off the rails in central Poland. The accident happened at about 4:15 p.m. local time, around 2 hours after the train left Warsaw. This man said it felt like the train changed track and was going too fast, so all the carriages started tipping over. There was no immediate word on the cause of the accident. Authorities said they will question the driver, who's suffering from shock. In the US, search crews are combing a mountain range in Utah for an Australian who's been missing for 5 days. Eric Robinson, a 64-year-old hiker from Melbourne, was scheduled to meet his wife 2 days ago in Vancouver, but never showed up.
It's a bit hard to remain positive after 4 days and knowing the kind of person that he is. It's difficult.
Robinson, a well-equipped and experienced hiker, was last seen on the 30th of July. Republican Sarah Palin caused the stir at Iowa's State Fair yesterday, stealing the spotlight from the party's presidential contenders. Her visit to the cattle barn attracted a wild crush of photographers, reporters and fans, alarming the cows and bringing activity to a halt.
In the heartland, talking to the good folks of Iowa, these folks who are feeding the rest of the country and working so hard and instilling work ethic in our kids.
Meanwhile, the other Republican hopefuls, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, Congressman Ron Paul and one-time House Speaker Newt Gingrich, had to make more of an effort than simply showing up.
We're having a great time, and how can you not be happy at the state fair?
Former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty tried to impress with his burger flipping skills. The fair visit is a traditional rite of passage for presidential contenders. Palin's appearance has fueled more talk about her entry in the race, which slowed after a bus tour in June, and comes as Texas Governor Rick Perry declares his candidacy. Ben O'Rourke, ATV News.
Sports news. In tennis, Novak Djokovic has locked in a place in the Montreal Masters semi-finals after outshining Frenchman Gael Monfils. The Serb is the last big name in the contest. Britton Clennet reports.